Listen to me very closely. You should absolutely do your best to become a millionaire during your youth, despite what everyone else says. Reports show that the average millionaire is 57 years old, but I think you'll agree with me that while having a million or two in the bank at 57 is impressive, what's even better and what allows you to unlock an incredible quality of life you didn't even think was possible is to be making millions of dollars in profit in your early 20s. When you have money, the world becomes your playground. You can do as you wish. You get to play the game of life by different rules. People will either want to be you, marry you, or bury you. Your life becomes better than any movie, which is why honestly, I've never really been a fan of TV series, of movies, or even things like football. Why spend hours watching someone else accomplish big things, live the life, instead of going out in the real world and making a name for yourself? Now, if you know my story, then you'll know I went from sleeping in a basement infested with rats to staying in some of the best buildings in the world and running a profitable online business in my early 20s. Which is why my goal with today's video is to reveal the 6 secrets that wealthy people understand and use that could make you extremely wealthy in your teens or in your early 20s. The first thing you need to understand if you genuinely want to become extremely successful, and I had to learn this the hard way, is that success is a never-ending marathon, not a sprint. They say Rome wasn't built in a day, and while that might be true, when you are a business owner, you're trying to build something big, to positively impact the lives of millions, even billions of people. The truth is, you're never gonna reach a point where you can just say, oh, I made it, because that point does not exist. Everything in nature needs to constantly evolve, to constantly get better. Things never stay as they are. They're always in motion. They either adapt and thrive or decay and become extinguished. And when you get to your first $10,000 in profit per month, you might rent a Benz and you're driving around, you feel successful, you feel great, and then you realize some people make billions of dollars with their companies in 1 year. In comparison, $100,000 a year, it's really nothing. So when you think you're hot shit and you've mastered the game of life, you realize there are so many levels to this thing, it never ends. That's why I'll never be able to say, oh, I made it. Sure, I got myself out of hell. A couple years ago, I was in a terrible position that I wouldn't wish upon even my worst enemies. But even then, I can't really say I made it. I can always do things better, improve, impact more people positively, grow my business further. There's always something else to achieve. I remember at some point, someone asked me, when will you ever be satisfied? And my answer was, never. When it's in your blood to achieve big things, you just can't stop. And some people will say, oh, that's not healthy. But you look at these same people and they're addicted to video games, to porn, to social media. I'd rather be addicted to achievement than to these things. I remember at some point reading the book Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone, and I remember this specific section of the book that truly impacted me. I still remember it to this day. He was essentially explaining how at some point he was struggling, he was drinking a lot, taking drugs every day, and his life was a complete disaster. He wanted to do more, to live a better life, but he was just stuck in this horrible day-to-day. And one day he realized that his obsession with drugs, with partying, with alcohol, he could actually turn it into something else, into an obsession to become extremely successful, to make a name for himself. Because that's the thing that most people don't get, especially if you're a young man. Chances are you have obsession within you. I don't really believe there's such a thing as an addictive personality. I think we're all meant to achieve something, whatever it may be. I believe each individual has its own talents. But the issue is, if you don't know what you want to do with your life, or if you know what you want, you know you want to become successful, you know you want to achieve big things, but you're not yet bold enough to roll up your sleeves, put in the work, face your fears, face rejection again and again and again, fail, fall, and get back up as many times as it takes, you will naturally fall for addictions, for vices. But like many people, myself included, one day you just reach that point where it's like, you're just sick and tired of this life. You know you want more, and you finally decide to commit to removing everything from your life which has nothing to do with your goals. If it doesn't make you happier, wealthier, or wiser, you shouldn't have it in your life. That's the truth. Now, the thing I really wish someone could have told me when I got started in entrepreneurship is that things will go to shit. Everything and everyone will try to dissuade you from pursuing greatness. I'm gonna be completely honest with you, for a while, you're gonna feel extremely lonely. And back then it was even worse. People didn't have access to the internet. They couldn't surround themselves, even if it was just virtually, with like-minded people. You couldn't just watch YouTube videos made by successful people. You had to figure out everything by yourself out there on the field. So while you might face rejection, criticism, even hate today, at least you've got the internet. You can network with like-minded people. You can go on social media and be inspired by the success of others. But that lonely phase where you're doing the work, you're barely seeing any traction because you're just at the beginning, let's be honest, it feels extremely lonely. When you tell your so-called friends, your family, your teachers, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur, I'm gonna create something big, if they're not good supporting people, they're gonna laugh at you, tell you that, what are you thinking? You're dreaming. dreaming. It's these same people who are miserable, who hate their lives and their jobs, who tell you to instead get a real job and stop dreaming. The truth is, they don't want to see you do well, because when you do succeed, it shows them maybe they could have succeeded themselves if only they had been willing to put in the work to overcome their fears. So it shows not only a lack of courage, but a lack of strength of character, a lack of willingness to do whatever the hell it takes to make their own dreams come true. So no wonder why they don't want to see you doing better than them. They still want to feel that sense of superiority over you. I never had too many people in my close circle, and honestly what you'll find is that the more successful you become, the higher you climb, the more people who just want to take advantage of you and see you fall. Having money, having notoriety is amazing for sure. It opens so many doors. It allows you to access such a quality of life you didn't even think existed. Most people couldn't even imagine it. However, it also comes with its fair share of downsides and of disadvantages. And the reason why I'm telling you these things is because you have to be ready for anything. You might think once you make more money, all of your problems will go away. That's not necessarily true. And while I do agree that 99.9% of all of your problems will disappear instantly the moment you start to make more money, you will still need to face big issues that most everyday people will never face. Let's say you became a multi-millionaire overnight. How many toxic friends who don't even care about you do you think would try to reach out to you and take advantage of you? How many family members would become jealous, start hating you, try to get you to give them money, but they never actually did anything for you, they never supported you? That's why you need to be very careful. I know that maybe the first thing that you want to do when you get to $10,000 per month is to go and rent a Ferrari and just impress people. But honestly, when you get out of a supercar and you are under 30, people just think that you're a rich kid, a spoiled brat. They're not gonna think, oh, this guy actually earned it. He worked hard. He created something. Of course not. So trust me, it is not gonna have the intended effect at all. And in certain situations, it's just better not to draw attention to yourself. Now, before you do reach success, before you experience the best things that this world has to offer, you are gonna struggle. You will enter this phase that we call the valley of despair. Before getting started in business, I had many bad habits, vices, addictions, and I knew that if I wanted to get better, get a shot at actually becoming successful, I needed to drop all of these bad habits from my life. So at the time, I would blame myself for not having any willpower, not being disciplined, and not being able to do the things that I needed to do to become successful. But now looking back, I realize it was the easiest thing in the world to blame myself, because at least I thought it's my fault if I'm not successful. I had no one else to blame. But then, as I started to better myself, as I started to let go of toxic relationships that didn't serve me, as I started to remove the bad habits and replace them with good, positive habits, as I started to shop every single day, put in the work regardless of how I felt, even on the weekends and on holidays, I realized that this was the hardest part, and barely anyone was talking about it. Everyone was telling me how becoming successful would be amazing and how sure it would be difficult, but no one told me how lonely it would feel to put in the work and at first you barely see any progress. It is so frustrating. You're moving at a snail's pace while you see experienced competitors moving so fast, so effortlessly, and you wonder if you'll ever be able to get to their level. It seems impossible. Let me tell you one thing. This phase is when you need to persevere the most. That dark, lonely, difficult phase is only testing your resolve when nothing seems to be going your way, when you're barely making progress towards your goals. It's life's way of asking you, do you actually want it? Are you actually willing to sacrifice for it? Do you have what it takes? And I'll tell you what's on the other side of that loneliness, of those early mornings, late nights, fears, doubts. What's on the other side of that pain is incredible, but most people will give up when it's most difficult, and then they will spend the rest of their lives complaining about the fact that they don't have the life that they want, that they're not successful. And believe me, there is nothing worse than leaving with a bitter taste in your mouth and that lump in your throat that comes from the feeling of defeat, because you know the only reason why you're not like those guys, those successful people that you aspire to be like, is because you gave up. Imagine telling your kids, your future family, that you gave up because it was too difficult. You've got to realize your kids, your future family, will have to live with the consequences of your choices for at least 18 years or so. So make the right choices, because you might think, oh, it's fine if I skip the gym today. It's fine if I don't get to work. And instead I take a day off. After all, I earned it. But what you don't realize is that your own choices not only affect you, but also the people around you. Now, the next thing you need to understand, if you want to become extremely successful, and especially if you're young, it's that you need to get in the habit of taking action. In business, speed is extremely important because opportunities are only around for a certain amount of time, and usually that window of opportunity closes pretty fast. So many people have the opportunity to change their lives. If you're watching this right now, you have at least a steady internet connection and a device. It could be a laptop, a phone, a tablet. You have the opportunity to leverage the greatest opportunity to create immense wealth. We have never seen an opportunity like it. Yet, instead of starting your own business, what you're going to do is play video games, scroll on TikTok or on Instagram endlessly, honestly. And that's fine if you don't care to achieve big things, but if you want the best things that this world has to offer, if you want to take your girlfriend, your boyfriend to the best restaurants in town, pay the bill like it's nothing, if you want to provide your future family with the best education, the best possible environment to grow up in, if you want to fly private, have supermodels, whatever it is that you want, if you really want these things, nobody is gonna hand them to you. You will have to earn everything you've got. Sometimes I've heard people say, oh, I wish I had been born in a rich family. When it comes to me, my father's a nurse, my mother a nursing assistant. Growing up, we often lacked money. I saw wealthier kids having things that I couldn't afford, and of course I was jealous. But at the same time, I never envied those kids like most people would, because I'd think, okay, they were given everything, so what? They have no merit, they don't know what it's like to work hard, to struggle, at least not the way that I do. It's great to be given something, for sure, it feels good to receive a gift, but honestly, I don't like receiving gifts. I like giving gifts. I like earning what I get, because that feels truly gratifying. When you get into a supercar because your daddy bought it for you, sure, you might appreciate it, but not as much as somebody who's gonna have to work to earn it, as somebody who put in decades of work to actually be able to sit behind the steering wheel of that car. And in fact, from trusted sources, I know that a lot of trust fund kids, because they were handed everything on a silver platter, they have no drive, no ambition, they don't care to achieve anything. All they want to do is access their trust fund money and waste it on drugs, on private jet trips, and on expensive parties. Now, it's okay if you don't know exactly which opportunity to go for. In fact, to help you, I've recorded a free guide in which I analyze every popular online business model. Together, we take a look at the pros, at the cons. That way, you can figure out which one is the best to start for you. If you're interested, I'll leave the link in the description below. Now, the next lesson I'd like to share with you, and this one is extremely important if you want to become successful, is that while a bad environment will not doom you to failure, it will make it more difficult to succeed, and it will slow you down. Maybe right now you're watching this, you're living with your parents. They're always arguing, always complaining about the price of stuff. Maybe you're not in the best of environments. However, let's say you're not really making that much money, you're struggling, you're a student, you don't really have the luxury to be able to move out and to go surround yourself with high achievers, with entrepreneurs, with people who want more out of life and who actually walk the walk instead of just talking. But as much as you need, you should absolutely optimize your environment for success, no matter what your current circumstances look like right now. Even when I was sleeping in a basement infested with rats, I'd take my Kindle, I'd read before bed, I'd learn about business, I'd learn about human psychology, I'd wear an eye mask as I sleep, earplugs in my ears to get a better sleep quality as much as I could. But I mean, to be honest, I would sleep with the lights on because I didn't want the rats to bite me in my sleep. And in your environment is also included the people that you choose to spend time with. Now, like I said, if you live with your family, they're always arguing, always shouting, always negative. Maybe right now you can't exactly afford to move out, so you have to endure, you have no other option. But your friends, or the people that you think are your friends, but really, they don't want the best for you, those are toxic relationships. If someone doesn't believe in your goals, if someone makes fun of what you want to achieve, they don't support you whenever you try something new, they criticize you, they laugh at you, these people are not your friends. They are only anchors dragging you down, so you need to cut them loose. I know it can be easier said than done, but I'll be completely honest with you. If you surround yourself with the wrong people, you are very likely to end up wasting your potential. I knew a few people that had tremendous potential, but because they weren't willing to let go of toxic relationships, of people who made them feel bad for wanting to achieve big things, guess what? They listened to the same toxic people, and we lost touch, and a couple years later, I hear about these people, and their lives only got worse. All of that because they followed the wrong people. They wasted their potential because they weren't willing to be lonely for a while. I'd rather be completely alone than surrounded by a bunch of people who don't care about me, who laugh at me, who humiliate me, who criticize me. What's the point? They're not your friends. Now, the next thing that you absolutely need to do if you want to become extremely wealthy before you turn 30 is that the best thing that you can do is to have more than you show and to speak less than you know. At the end of the day, not everyone has good intentions. Not everyone genuinely wants to see you do well. A lot of people, they rejoice in seeing others fail. And if I'm being honest, we all have enemies, and there's nothing wrong in feeling pride in defeating an enemy. That's your competitive instinct. Society might have tried to bury it, to tell you it's wrong to want to compete, but it's simply human nature. That drive, that instinct to compete is what made us better as a species 33 centuries. If we didn't want to do better than the next guy, we would accomplish nothing at all. People would just be satisfied with what they have. We'd have no scientific breakthroughs. Now, old money knows not only how to make money, but also how to keep it. Like I said, you might want to become rich because you want to drive a Lamborghini and impress everyone, pick up girls and have them see, wow, you're so successful. And I'm not saying that you can't do that by any means, but like I said, when you get out of a supercar, you're in your early 20s, people will just think you bought it with daddy's money, you didn't earn it. And again, sometimes it's best not to stir up people's jealousy to attract unwanted attention. What you see me show on social media, when you see me in nice buildings, when you see me in nice cars, still, I'm showing you maybe what, 10% of what I could show you, because at some point, there is no need to constantly flash your lifestyle, because it only attracts people who care about these things. is and who don't actually care about you as an individual? Why would you want to be surrounded by people who don't care about who you are, who value what you can bring them financially as opposed to your ideas, your thoughts, your values? Now, something else I really learned the hard way is that when you compare yourself to others, people who are more successful than you are, people who are way ahead of you, what you're doing is comparing your chapter 10 maybe to their chapter 50, 70. So of course, you are gonna be disappointed. You are gonna feel bad about yourself. Even if technically speaking, if you look at your life, you look back, you have achieved a lot. But because you're gonna compare your chapter 10 to somebody's chapter 50, there is a huge gap. And at the end of the day, you need to understand, even billionaires compare themselves to others. So you shouldn't feel bad for it. I mean, we are made to be this way. It's in our DNA. But at the same time, if you are aware of it, you're conscious of it, then you're not gonna be spending all of your time focusing on other people's journey. To be honest with you, I don't spend time on social media looking at other people and what they're doing and how they live their lives because I couldn't care less. I'm focused on building a better life for myself and for the people that I love. I'm focused on growing my business. I'm building. I don't have time to go on TikTok or on Instagram and to watch girls doing their dances or people posting themselves in a private jet. I don't care. I'm focused on my own reality, and so should you be if you want to have good mental health and move forward. Because if you're so busy looking at what the other guy is doing, how will you move forward in your own life? You won't have any time for it. It's like the people who want to move forward, do better, create a better future for themselves, but they're always looking at their past. It's like try walking, but you're looking behind you instead of in front of you. At some point, you're gonna bump into a wall, or worse, end up in a car crash. And you've got to understand, winners focus on winning, while losers focus on winners. So the question is, which one are you going to be? Now with that said, what are you waiting for? It's time to get back to work.